What's going on, everybody? Aiden from Birds vs. Boys here, coming to you after the Eagles beat the Lions on Sunday Night Football to improve to 8-2. They're first in the NFC East. They're first in the NFC in general. It's another win where the defense balled out. The defensive line looked incredible. The offense put pads and helmets on, and that's about all I can give them credit for. We'll get into all of that and much more. But first, the intro.
Chris Hansen here, and I'm going to need you all to take a seat right over there and check out Birds versus Boys.
I think you're completely right here, and I hate it.
Yep. Hey, idiots. Stop doing dumb things.
I got 2 phones.
Upset alert. Upset alert.
I might go insane.
I think you're already there.
There's no hope. Hope is gone.
If this was an AFC North podcast, we'd be done in 15 minutes.
Bob Hope.
I'm going to drink bleach.
That is
be the team you promised me you were going to be this year! This is the Consciously Hopeful podcast.
I'll be watching.
Let's react to it all right now. This team, the defensive dominance balanced perfectly with the total offensive incompetence, is a psychological test sent to me from the sports gods. It is a perfect balance of how far you can push a human being with the just genuine insanity with how the Eagles run their offense, mixed in with maybe what's trending towards being the best defense in the league based off of the 2 performances we've seen since the bye, with a healthy Nolan Smith, the return of Brandon Graham in a somewhat of a sense, and the return of Nakobe Dean and the trade for Jaelan Phillips. And I have said this. When we started this podcast, I wanted to make sure that we always did the positive route. I thought in Philadelphia, one thing that always bothered me was the negative spin always got the most attention. Controversy created ratings on the radio shows here, and I said if I ever had a platform, as small as it may be, I will always take the positive spin first. I will talk about the positives before the negatives. This offense makes it so fucking hard to talk about all the positives that go on. All I've ever wanted in my entire life is for my football team to win every single week. And every single week they win. And I walk away and I'm like, God, what did they just do on offense for 60 minutes? But I am staying true to my word. We are starting with the defense. That was incredible. As good as they were on Monday Night Football on the road at Lambeau in a huge matchup against Green Bay, they were even better tonight. Everything that they highlighted in the broadcast that Chris Collinsworth brought up, I don't think you can emphasize enough. Jared Goff was 2 for his last 18 passing-wise, and a lot of those were not even close. The utter dominance that you saw from this defensive front, I think is one of the best that I've seen from an Eagles team ever. I'm not talking about just this year, talking about since they got Jaelan Phillips these past 2 weeks. I'm talking about ever. In my 30 years of life, that is one of the most dominant defensive performances, considering the opponent, that I have ever seen from the Philadelphia Eagles. This was supposed to be an all-star matchup on both sides of the ball, considering the skill position players, the offensive line that many consider to be the 2 best offensive lines in the league. Granted, 2 of the Eagles' offensive linemen did leave the game, so it kind of left it, kind of unbalanced there, but still, the stakes in this one were framed to be maybe not so because of the Eagles' offensive lackluster performances in the past few weeks, but it really was meant to be like, look how much talent is on both of these offenses. This should be an all-star game. And it was not. The Eagles dominated up front. Jaelan Phillips, again, he got home early for his first sack as an Eagle. The pressure that was at Jared Goff the entire night. The Lions, when they get going, their offense is poetry in motion. When they're in rhythm, when they're able to run the ball effectively with Gibbs and Montgomery, they run some of the best, most beautiful play action that the league has ever seen. And they weren't able to do any of that tonight. Gibbs had a pretty big game, and he was really the only focal point that was working in the offense, but in the passing game, he did not get anything going on the ground. How many times did it feel like that team was in 2nd and 10 or 3rd and 10? Because they tried to run play action early, weren't able to establish it, and then they just had Jared Goff standing back there to throw, and this defensive line absolutely teed off for 60 minutes. And it felt like you could feel... there's something about Jared Goff, even before the game started, I'm sorry, just optically, he looked like a doofus in the cold, and nothing about him inspired confidence in me going into the game, and it felt like you could see his confidence deplete in real time. It was like you're watching your gas tank on the highway, and you're trying to figure if you can make it to the next gas station or not, and you see it dwindling mile by mile. That's how it felt like watching this offense. You were just waiting, okay, there's so much talent, they'll finally get it to Amon-Ra. Gibbs broke off a screenplay on 3rd and 10. Maybe this will change the tide for them. And it just never happened. They never got anything going, and you could just see that look on Jared Goff's face. Every time in that second half, he went back to throw. There was pressure in his face. And the times that they weren't able to get home, they still got their hands up. Something that we talked about last week with Jalen Carter, getting his hands up if you're not going to get to the quarterback and bat a ball down. He did that twice more tonight, and Jordan Davis did it 3 more times. The Eagles are so good at that. I think that's such a high football IQ thing to do. They were excellent at it tonight, knocking down 5 balls. And you could just tell it created this rigidness in how the Lions ran their offense. Because, again, if a ball's tipped at the line of scrimmage, how many times did it happen on second downs? Now you're in 3rd and long. So now when you're in a 3rd and long situation, you don't have a mobile quarterback, the defense kind of knows what it's able to happen, that you're going to have to push the ball down the field. They had no time to push the ball down the field. And when you got the lack of a mobile quarterback and got his feet moving and he was not on center, everything was off target. And then in the back half, when everything was off target, this secondary absolutely balled out. How many times did you hear Amon-Ra's name tonight? Maybe once. No dances tonight from Amon-Ra. I was waiting for a little dance. No dances from Amon-Ra. But Quinyon was awesome. Even Adoree Jackson, who has been the main target on defense because everybody else has balled out so much, and he gets targeted the most in real gameplay as well because people don't want to target Quinyon. They don't want to target Cooper. He turns out to be, quote-unquote, the weakest link. But I thought he was awesome, too. There was no play when you watch those replays where the secondary wasn't glued to guys. There were multiple opportunities where it just felt like the Eagles could have had some interceptions because the ball's just landing at their feet, right? And the not only that, how sound they were in just obliterating the line and making tackles in the backfield when they got the Goff, just the ability to get their arms on him and get their arms on his arm as he's trying to throw. They were so sound tackling, and 2 guys who are historically really hard to tackle. They brought it up on Jahmyr Gibbs, the most touchdowns by any player before the age of 24. How tough it is to bring him down in open space. And then they bring in David Montgomery, who will run right through you. Well, in the crux of the game, when the Eagles gave the ball back to the Lions and they needed a play, Nakobe Dean ran through him for the sack. They brought the physicality. And again, I cannot stress this enough. Going into this game, this was hyped up as 2 great offenses in terms of talent, 2 best offensive lines in the league. Neither offensive line looked great, but I thought that was much in large part because every single person on that Eagles defensive line won at one point or another. Jalen Carter got in the backfield. Jordan Davis got in the backfield. Moro Ojomo continues to rise. Somebody brought this up on Twitter. It was like he was the most obvious riser candidate of all time, and it is happening. It is blossoming. He was in a cocoon, and we knew he would turn into a beautiful butterfly, and he very much has. He was in there as well. And Jaelan Phillips, again, they just took turns. Jalix Hunt in the backfield again. They obliterated that offensive line. 2 for his last 18. We're talking about a guy who was completing over 70% of his passes. He was under 50% tonight, and if you would have told me that he completed 22% of his passes, I would have believed you. The one thing that they were able to do is they tried to just make the Eagles' aggressiveness bite them, and even then it really didn't work because there was a screenplay to Jahmyr Gibbs twice, and that was really the only thing that they got going. They tried to get Gibbs in open space. It worked a few times, but really it did not. And again, I brought this up going into this week where optically it kind of felt like the 2023 49ers game, right? It just felt like that team that felt slighted. It should have been them in the Super Bowl, not the Eagles. Now they got their chance of revenge. They're talking all week about how they've had this game highlighted. This is supposed to be their moment. And the difference, when I had Tom Stakes on the show, that he had said, and we talked about at length, was the difference in the linebacker play compared to 2023 to 2025. They are so good. Zach Baun never misses a tackle. I brought up Nakobe Dean on the sack, but multiple times he got stuck in coverage, and you think to yourself, he's usually not the coverage linebacker. He's the early down linebacker because of how physical he is, and he brings the boom at the line of scrimmage. So you bring Jahad Campbell in there. But late in that game, multiple times, Nakobe Dean was stuck in coverage, and he met the moment, and he was glued on his receiver, including once on Jahmyr Gibbs, who I genuinely believe he is the fastest player in the league. He did that. Those linebackers are so talented. They are just so deep everywhere now at every single position. And it just felt to me like you could just hear it in terms of them hitting guys, in terms of them hitting offensive linemen, in terms of tackling, you could hear it, and you could sense it in the way that both Jared Goff and Jordan Love have looked uncomfortable. I think this defense just makes opposing offenses feel uncomfortable and feel unsure of themselves. And I think the biggest key to this game was the fourth downs. We know that the Lions are the most aggressive team in the league. We know that they like to go for it on fourth down. And pregame, they were talking about the swirling winds up to 35, 40-mile-an-hour gusts, and I can hear it out here in my window. It very much is 35 to 40-mile-an-hour gusts of wind. It was going to be very difficult to kick the football. So you venture to guess there'd be more opportunities to go for it. They were 0 for 5. They were 0 for 5. And that not only speaks to me of the dominance up front, but how prepared you were. Because on multiple occasions, they left the defense in on a fourth down, even when the Lions lined up for a punt, and it paid off. Because on a 4th and 2, the Lions run it, they fake a punt, they run it up the middle, they're met in the middle by the defense. That's preparation, that's determination. I got on this defense after the Thursday night football game against the Giants because Sirianni drills home tough, detailed together, and we didn't see any of that in that game. Tonight, we saw all of the tough, detailed, and togetherness of this defense where all 11 guys, you could highlight a moment. Beyond 11. There were 13 if you include Jahad Campbell coming in, Andrew Makuba playing snaps. There were 13 guys who made a play tonight on that defense. Remarkable stuff. The aggressiveness by the Lions ended up working against them because as many opportunities as they got, the Eagles shut them down on those fourth downs every time. That's preparation. That's knowing that they're going to still be out there on 4th and 4. That's knowing where you need to be. I think pre-snap, you see these defensive guys communicating so much. It was the viral play of the game a few weeks ago against Green Bay. On that 4th and 1, they're saying inside zone this way. It is an inside zone that way, and they stuff them in the backfield. There's more pre-snap communication tonight, and that leads to the Lions going 0-5 on offense on fourth down. Incredible stuff. I think they had 1 third down conversion total and 0 for 5 on fourth down. The Eagles, against what some consider to be the best offense in the league, almost pitched a perfect game on 3rd and 4th down. I cannot stress enough how remarkable that was. And for the Lions, at some point, the Eagles are self-aware enough what their offense is doing or lack of what their offense is doing. They can reel in their aggressiveness. Granted, foreshadowing, because there were certain times in the past 2 weeks that they haven't. But sometimes they reel it in. The Lions, on the other hand, Dan Campbell is very much walking a tightrope between aggressiveness and stupidity. There is a very fine line between aggressiveness and stupidity. He is tightroping it perfectly. Tonight, he was on the opposite side. He was on the stupidity line. And I just thought, like, at some point, trust your defense. They played incredible. Pin the Eagles back. Play a special teams game. Turn this into Iowa, Minnesota, right? Turn this into Iowa, Wisconsin in 2012, where it's, you know what, it's 3 yards here and there down the field, play for special teams, play for field position. The Lions weren't willing to do that. They wanted to be aggressive in every opportunity that they had, and it backfired on them a lot. The Eagles' offense was not able to make them pay, but I just think that killed their momentum so much, and you could see the confidence grow. Like, you could just feel that defense was feasting, right? It was awesome. It was genuinely one of my favorite defensive performances that I've ever seen. The batted balls at the line, the pressure on Goff to make him constantly be moving his feet and be off target. The receivers were blanketed. Two running back combos. One of the best combos in the league. Absolutely nothing going on the ground. Just absolutely stonewalled them tonight. It was great. A++ to that defense. And I'll say this as well. We'll throw special teams in as like our halfway mark before we get into the offense, but in a night with swirling winds, Jake Elliott once again does it. There's just been certain times where he's been met with really tough conditions, the obvious one being against Buffalo. He nails it from 57 in a driving rain. Tonight, he hit from 47 right down the middle in a driving, swirling wind. He was great again where they needed him. 3 points felt like 7 in this game, and with that wind, it was really tough. You saw it impact the Lions where they had the extra point situation. They get a 15-yard unsportsmanlike penalty. It pushes them back to a 48-yard extra point. They miss it. That was huge in this game. And Jake Elliott was nails. He was absolutely solid, and he did it yet again in a really tough situation weather-wise. He was great. Special teams, A+ to go along with the defense. Before we get into the offense, let's keep positive, right? Let's keep it positive. Next week is Birds vs. Boys week, and we were met with an incredible opportunity for this game. For Birds vs. Boys, Eagles at Cowboys, 425, game of the week, we will be streaming live from Old City, the bar, the Philly bar in New York City, right there in Manhattan. We're really excited for this opportunity. It'll be live on this YouTube. If you're watching now, it'll be live on our TikTok as well, streaming both there. Great opportunity for us to stream what this show is all about in Birds versus Boys, to go up to New York City and get to hang out with some of the fans who, bleed Philly. This is a Philly bar. It's in the heart of New York City. So to kind of venture out of the friendly confines of Philadelphia and still be with all these Philadelphia fans in New York will just be an awesome experience. We're really excited for it. Could not thank Old City enough for the invitation to come do this. And I'm really excited to be live streaming during the game, both on YouTube and TikTok, so I can communicate with all of you at home, no matter where you be. If you're not in New York City, if you're not in Philadelphia, anywhere around the globe, we can communicate right here on YouTube and TikTok. So as soon as that game starts, we'll be live at Old City in New York City. Can't wait. What a great opportunity for Birds vs. Boys. I got through all the positives. I guess I got to do the negative. Like I said, what a psychological test this offense can be sometimes. And there always seems to be this question, because they struggle, of whose fault it is. And you know that shows like whose line is it anyway? And it'd be one or another. Guys, have we ever considered the distinct possibility with this Eagles offense that it's just truly every single fucking person's fault? Think about it. I don't think that Kevin Patullo is a good offensive coordinator. I think we've seen enough to know that he doesn't really have a good game flow and game pulse and game feel, right? But at the same time, I don't think they call plays well. I don't think they scheme well. I don't think they execute well. Watching that game tonight, I didn't think this was just simply they have a bad offensive coordinator. They do. But at the same time, there are certain plays where I thought to myself, oh, like that formation, that's something new and unique. Oh, that was creative. Ooh, it's just nice to see guys lined up in different various ways. Here's a great example. They have a 2nd and 4 play. They bring Devontae Smith into the backfield. They have him cross the formation onto the right flat, and they have Saquon Barkley go out into the left flat. They run a screen play to Saquon Barkley. Nobody blocks the linebacker. Negative game. Okay? Was that a bad play call by Kevin Patullo, or was that just bad execution? Or was it just bad scheme? Did the Lions know that was coming? It sure seemed like it. They run a wide receiver screen to A.J. Brown. Again, unblocked cornerback, he's right there on him to make the play. Is that a bad play call, or is that them failing to execute and them missing a corner with a block and just not blocking well? They go for a tush push. They fail because Darius Cooper false starts. Okay, so is that Kevin Patullo's fault, or is that just them executing poorly? They actually fail on 3 straight tush pushes. They have a one-on-one with Saquon Barkley down the field with a linebacker. He's open. He can't locate the ball, and Jalen Hurts misses him. Is that Kevin Patullo, who got a favorable matchup for their skill position player, or is that the 2 guys who you pay the most on this offense not coming through? And most importantly, the guy who seems to have the most to say about the ineptitude of this offense half-asses half of his routes. Is that Kevin Patullo's fault, or is it A.J. Brown's fault because he has a lot to say on a Twitch stream, but then when they throw him the ball deep, he cuts his route off and stops running? If I was mad at how the offense was running, I would be out so stubbornly to prove my point that if I got the ball, we would be successful, right? To the point, like if I post about it and on Twitch streams, I'm like, it's not going well, you should drop me in fantasy, to the point that the billionaire owner has to come downstairs from his ivory tower and talk to you about keeping things in-house because, hey, we're all in this together. We know we need to get you the ball. We know our offense will be better if you have the ball in your hands. If everybody, all the way up to the owner, were in agreement and got your message, I probably would be so stubbornly emphatic about making every catch possible to prove my point to the world. I wouldn't be half-assing almost all of my routes. Chris Collinsworth called it out. They throw it to him down the field. Nothing. He's not running through the route. And it happened multiple times tonight. I don't get it. I don't get anything about this offense pretty much. And what drives me up a wall is they really have no bread and butter. There's nothing that you can point to and say the Eagles offense does fill in the blank well. Because I've talked about it before. I'd love to see more RPO out of them and use Hurts' legs as a weapon. I think they ran it twice today. It actually worked on the one play that got it for a gain of 17. Another play they ran, it was a completion to A.J. Brown, but it was a gain of 2. But they don't really run that. They don't run behind that offensive line as effectively as they did a year ago. 2 offensive linemen were out injured tonight. Saquon Barkley doesn't hit the home runs anymore. There might need to be a conversation about the fact that Tank Bigsby has more juice in his runs than Saquon Barkley does. When they're in shotgun, it's not like they scheme guys open very well. It's not like you're saying to yourself, well, that was a creative way to get Devontae Smith the ball, who had 1 catch. Anytime they do make a play, it seems to be out of the rhythm of the play call itself. For instance, the biggest play that they had tonight was a Jahan Dotson 34-yard catch, but that was a scramble drill where he knew smartly to take off when there was pressure and Hurts bailed out of the pocket. But that wasn't the play that was called. Nothing about them, like they don't scheme Jahan Dotson open, who's a pretty talented third wide receiver. A lot of the throws, because Hurts' completion percentage was nearly as bad as Goff's, but all of them are low percentage throws. They have no feel in terms of like when to run and when to pass the ball. They continue to line up in these jumbo packages and telegraph that they are going to run the football. They get stuffed at the line all the time. They have no rhythm in terms of balance of the offense. If you can make the case, their one bread and butter is a 1-yard sneak play, which they screwed up 4 times tonight. They had 2 false starts. Admittedly, one of them was a neutral zone infraction that they got wrong, but they still 4 times, 2 false starts and 2 stuffs. And it's the one play that they've seemed to actually perfectly execute, and they couldn't even do that. The free throw of their offense, the tush push, they could not even do that successfully. So I ask, what is it that they do well, and who is to blame? Because we're going to get a million calls tomorrow, and it's going to be another week of hearing about Kevin Patullo. I have never been the name Patullo might as well be tattooed to my forehead because of the amount of time, and I feel like I could just stare in a mirror all day with it tattooed to my forehead, and it wouldn't drive me as insane as it does hearing about him. He's not a good offensive coordinator, but this is not a good offense. They don't run anything like that's the other thing. They didn't win the penalty battle again tonight. They have false starts. They have holds. They had when it rains, it pours. They even had a 15-yard penalty where A.J. Brown tripped and fell down, and he got called for a low below the knees chop block penalty when he fell down. Everything they do fails. They get no rhythm in their offense. It's crazy to watch that this amount of talent and they cannot figure it out. They can't figure out how to get the ball to Devontae Smith more than once. How many drops do we have tonight? 4 or 5? 4 or 5? What is it that they do well? What is it that when they get into the offices on Tuesday and like, here is our install. Here's what we want to focus on because we think we have the matchup against this defense here. Here are the things. Here are the routes that could work. When you're in zone, here's where to sit down. We're going to see a lot of man. Here's the routes that we're going to run. Here are the plays that I think could work really well against a banged-up Detroit Lions secondary. What is it? What do they do? Like, it's crazy to me. And they have these tight ends, again, more Calcaterra on the field who cannot block. And anytime they get momentum, they screw it up. Here's a great example. They run the ball successfully twice. They get it to 3rd and 1. They go for the tush push. It's the one where it looked like it was a neutral zone infraction because the guy's hand was over the ball. They get called for a false start instead. So now you're in 3rd and 6. And the play goes a deep ball down the sideline to Granson, who is our 3rd string tight end. Why? It's 3rd and 6. Even the Lions, in all of their struggles tonight, they're still trying to get it to Jamison Williams on 3rd down. They're still on 4th and 4. They were still trying to go to Amon-Ra. Why are we going to Granson down the sideline at 3rd and 6? Everything they do is so low percentage, but that's a great. They put themselves into a fortuitous position, 3rd and 1, right? And that's good. Like you ran the ball successfully, and they take it away from themselves with penalties, with low percentage throws. I can't point to the one thing that they seem to actually be able to do is when they spread them out and allow Hurts to use his legs on a QB draw. It's the one play that we've seen all season that has made things more effective. And maybe they got the message tonight, but it feels like the only time this offense truly has success is when you allow Hurts to be mobile, because then the opposing defenses have to consider it. But right now, when they're not considering his legs, they're really just falling into these methods of predictability where everything that's 3rd and 10 is going to be a curl route at the sticks, and the defenses know it. If it's 1st down and Saquon's lined up in a specific location, they know it's going to be a run. Now it's 2nd and 8 because he's not able to get going. How many plays tonight did they get a 1st down and you thought they'd be able to get something going, or they had a positive play on 1st down at 2nd and 4? Lions blow it up. For instance, 6-yard run for Saquon on 1st down tonight. What happened very much after that? Play action. The Aiden Hutchinson is being blocked by a tight end. The defensive tackle gets through anyways. They have a meeting at the quarterback, and it's a sack. Why? They cannot get anything going. And even early in that game, like this to me is a team that is so unsure of themselves on offense. They had a play where it was 3rd and 1, and instead of going for the tush push, they go for some like inside draw play to Saquon. And it's like you are in the innate, unique position where you on 3rd and 4th and short, you don't have to do any misdirection. You don't have to do any trickery. It's one of the rare times in football where you can telegraph what you're about to do and it'll still work, and you don't do it. That to me is just a team that's so unsure of themselves. And again, I know I'm just listing off mistakes that they made, but it's crazy. It's a psychological test that makes me feel like I'm living on Shutter Island because, again, and more late game management from the coach where I'm losing my mind. I'm losing my mind after a win. That's why this is such a perfect Philadelphia team. And I know this just sounds like rambling at this point, but that's what this offense does to me. Because every time I think about the performance, I find another mistake that I'm truly just at a loss for how it could have happened. And thinking more into the late game situation, it's 4th and 1. You just got stopped in the tush push. I'm all for being aggressive, but the time and place, right? We talked about that last week. You're launching it 4th down. You're trying to get a deep ball to A.J. Brown, who puts his arm out and gives absolutely no effort whatsoever. Now, the defense is balled out all night. You're up 10. There's 3 minutes left. So they would have to go down the field twice, pretty much, because the field goal range is around 40 yards, considering the wind. So they'd have to get 50 yards that way to get a field goal, and then go down the field again to get a touchdown to tie this game. You go for it, and you get stuffed, and they're already in field goal range. And it's like, but your defense is playing well, and the offense has done absolutely nothing. So how do we not have the feel there, right? Like we're not getting time and place. We're just not doing all these little things right on offense. The time and place stuff, the execution, the scheme, it's crazy to me. So to wrap up the offense, going forward, they're playing the Cowboys next week. And I think this will be the ultimate final test, right? Like this is the boating test where Mrs. Puff for SpongeBob to pass is just what I learned in boating school is. They have to write down 10 words. They don't have to parallel park. They don't have to drive the boat. They have to write down what I learned in boating school is. That's where this offense has to be next week to pass the test, because you are playing a very bad Cowboys defense. Admittedly, they have improved. They'll be better because Demarion Overshown is back, and Quinnen Williams they acquired through trade. So this offense was historically awful. It will not be that anymore, but it is still a great opportunity. You don't have to worry about the elements. You're playing in a dome, okay? So I don't want to hear about wind. I don't want to hear about cold. And you're not playing a very good defense in the Cowboys. That's a defense that they've been able to gash through on the ground. Multiple teams have been able to do it, including the Eagles in week 1. That should be able to set you up to get into the play action. If you're in play action, you should be able to get the ball to Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. This is the final test. You played a good Packers defense. You played in really tough elements against the Lions, who have a good defensive front. This is your final test. If you can't pass this next week with the Cowboys, I really don't know what to tell you. It is, bar none, what I learned in boating school today is. But, again, I'm going to end it on a positive note because I promised myself this, as bad as the offense is, we're going to stay positive. They're 8-2. They're the 1 seed. They were once again so dominant on defense that I don't like to look forward because I just want to keep enjoying stacking wins. But they're 8-2. They now have a stranglehold not only on the division but on the conference. They've beaten everybody that they could have had a tiebreaker with: the Lions, the Rams, the Bucks, and they'll have a chance to do that with the Bears coming up in about 3 weeks, or 2 weeks, honestly. So they have a great opportunity to solidify this 1 seed, and everybody would have to come through Lincoln Financial Field. And I just thought that game was such a preview of what that could be, where if you're an opposing fan or if you're just an outsider, could you expect a Jared Goff or Jordan Love to come into Lincoln Financial Field in January and win that game? Sam Darnold, another one for the Seahawks. Do you think, after what you saw against the Rams today, he could come in against this Eagles defense as dominant as they were and win the game? Because what you saw from him against LA today was 4 interceptions. So do you put him in the elements in January when it's 35 degrees and the winds could be 35 miles an hour? Could he win? Could somebody step up to the plate and beat this team and score on this defense when it gets cold and it gets snowy? The one team that you might expect to be able to do it is the team that came the closest, and that's the Rams. But they've already they beat the Rams last year twice, and they beat the Rams again this year in week 3. So until I see it, I won't believe it. That's the one team that you think maybe they could come in here and get it done, but you do feel confident as a fan because it feels like the way things are going with this defense that runs, the conference has to run through us, and it has to run through Lincoln Financial Field. And that is a great feeling. So I'll leave it with that. I thought this was, like I mentioned in the preview show, I thought this was the most important game of the year because of the statistical probabilities that it created in winning the division and winning the conference. And that defense brought it home with an 11 out of 10 performance to solidify, yes, we are the top dog defense in this conference. This shit runs through us. Awesome performance. Great job. Thank you for everybody who are tuning in. Like I said, next week, a little bit different. We'll see if we have a recap show because we can just live stream and have these thoughts for the full scale of the 60-minute football game live at Old City. We'll see you guys then. A few more shows this week to get us prepped for the game. And then the big show, Birds vs. Boys, live at Old City. We'll talk to you guys then.